I think most of the programming is made of encounters, maybe serendipity, no? Encounters with artists that you suddenly want to support, invite to Paris or San Francisco. So the collection is a mean to support an artist, but residency is another one, production of works, exhibition. We use many tools to support one artist's career on the long term.
KADIST was started by my family as a family foundation 10 plus years ago in Paris and opened in San Francisco a little bit later, like 5 years ago. I had the pleasure to co-found KADIST with my niece, Sandra. We believe that the arts contribute in a fundamental way to progressive society. So KADIST wants to give a voice to artists who are engaged in the main important issues of our time and express through their art their opinion and vision about society. The aim of the collection is not to create a remarkable contemporary collection to be seen in a beautiful large museum. We do not sell artworks from the collection. We are a non-profit.
One of the first pieces we acquired is a work by Jean-Luc Moulin, Le Nœud Coulant. It's a collage of two eyes, and they're all on a rope. If you pull the thread, the eyes will be reconfigured and it will look at each other in different ways. And in a way, this is a very good metaphor of what KADIST collection is. I think if there's a thread in the collection, this is it. It's about alterity. It's about how we look at the other, how we are able to see the world through different perspectives. Most of the work we have in the collection has a specific take on history, on fact, that are usually using storytelling, fiction, documentary to deconstruct what we think is truth.
KADIST has really two pillars. One is the collection, the other one is the programs. The collection is essentially the material for our programs, and our programs are using the collection and nourishing the collection with new relationship, new artists, and new art.
KADIST's mission overall is really to support the role of artists as cultural agents. It's about bringing a community together, a group of people that are interested in a certain topic, in a certain artist's practice, and allow them the space to really have a dialogue about it. We've done everything from book launches to different musical performances, dance performances, performance art, film screenings. We've had a seance in the space, we've had hypnotism, we've had an artist do an exhibition in your mouth. So about really like taste and sensation, and everything from that to more kind of traditional artist talks and curatorial talks. We did a project with a Russian artist named Arseny Zhelayev, who took over the entire space, all 3 different rooms of KADIST, and replaced it with an imagined museum of Russian history, premising that Vladimir Putin would still be in power roughly 20 years from now, what Russia would look like under that lens and how they would reflect on their own histories. His residency took place in Paris, and he developed the project in Paris and presented it there first, and then we traveled it here to San Francisco, and a second version of it was presented.
Ever since the space opened in Paris, the idea was to invite artists in residency, so artists who had been already approached through the collection with this idea of collaborating with them on a long term and inviting them for some time to spend with us in Paris, some research and some production of new works through an exhibition. Presenting right now in the Paris space a solo exhibition by Otobong Nkonga. She is from Nigeria and is presenting work that comes from a body of material that she accumulated from a trip to Namibia, where she was interested in the Green Hill, which is a copper mine, which today is closed. It looks like a kind of dead hole. Here she accumulated a lot of material during a trip that was only 10 days. And she is trying to map different ideas that come from the enormous amount of material she actually gathered.
Every time that an artist comes to San Francisco as part of the residency, The new work that they produce is produced in close conversation with the curatorial team. This spring we hosted Eric Beltran, who was born in Mexico but based in Barcelona. He came to San Francisco for 2 months to conduct research toward a new project. The exhibition here, The Fallen Tree, is the culmination of that research. He's looking at the social landscape or the social history of California and the region and identifying moments in which the human subject has had an intensified relationship with the land.
KADIST collection wants to represent a diversity of practices, being close to not the object necessarily, but being close to the artistic practice. There's an artist, Franck Lebovici, who mentioned that the work is a form of life. So it's in a way, it's a sort of ecosystem that you have to know in its entity. So you have to know where the work was made, in which context, with maybe which intention, which material. So you have to understand the form of life of a work. And you can imagine that the programming of KADIST is a way to cultivate the forms of life of the work that we acquire.
It's very difficult nowadays to have a knowledge of contemporary art throughout the world. There's such a proliferation of artists and biennale. But at KADIST we are very fortunate. We have an incredible array of advisors, and each of them has a very deep knowledge of a region or part of the world. Jens Hoffmann has been at the inception of our Latin American collection and has done a lot of work in that region, knows a lot of artists from there. We are very happy to have Wu Henru as advisor. He has provided an incredible introduction to not only Chinese artists, but artists from Asia. So he's a key advisor to our Asia collection. More recently, we were very lucky to have Philippe Pivrot, who is now the head of art school in Frankfurt, as advisor for KADIST because of his very deep knowledge of African contemporary art. The way we collect is essentially picking the brain of those incredible curators and art critics that together have a very impressive knowledge of the art scene in the world. We receive a lot of proposals, but how do we select? The way we do that is fairly organized. We have 3 different meetings for the 3 regional collections, Europe, Middle East, America, and Asia, and twice a year. So every 6 months we have an opportunity to add to the collection. This is a collective decision. So we have sometimes 7 to 10 people in the room. We spend a whole day. We look at videos, we look at art, and the person suggesting an acquisition speaks for 10-15 minutes about the reason this piece of art and this artist is interesting. The whole thing is both very, I would say, festive and competitive.
This is another way of achieving your same mission.
There is a strong belief at KADIST about collaboration and teamwork, open dialogue and open voting about everything.
I believe KADIST has an interesting scale. It has a small facade, a small exhibition space, but kind of a large reach out through the number of people we work with through time. It's important for KADIST that the collection is also accessible on view, maybe not physically, but at least on internet. So from the very early beginnings, we had all our collection on display online, and we produce more and more content to mediate, to accompany this collection online through videos of artists, so interviews of artists, text being written on pieces, and so on.
My background is engineering. In some ways, there is some engineering culture at KADIST. We use sometimes some quantitative tools to measure and improve what we do. One of them, I should qualify, is really a work in progress.
It'll take a long time. It'll take a computer days and days.
We are developing something we call an index, which is in fact a semantic navigation tool.
So you need to use a corpus that's huge.
Right.
Right. The bigger the better. Like
The
tens
collection
of billions of words.
is mostly conceptual in nature. It talks about contemporary issues. So the thought was that we could create a navigation system using common topics so that ourselves, the team, and maybe people outside KADIST to know and use the collection.